So welcome to Heal the Shadow in Your Relationships 2, Second Summit. And I am so pleased today to have with us the legendary author, John Gray. John, such a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be talking about this subject. It's a very important subject.
It is a very important subject. And although you need no introduction, I'm going to tell people a little bit about this wonderful man. He is the leading relationship expert in the world. And of course, best-selling author of the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. John, I heard that Lionsgate Summit Entertainment has purchased the rights to your book.
Oh, yeah, that'll be fun. Yep.
So they have an intention of creating a feature film and a TV series from it?
That's correct. We're still working on the script. It's a translation of the book into a movie, which is going to be great when it comes out.
Wow, so exciting for you. And I understand it's starring Reese Witherspoon. That's so exciting.
Yeah, she's gotten behind it big time, so I'm very excited about that. I like her a lot.
Woo-hoo-hoo. So John's list of credits as far as what TV shows he's been on and magazines he's been featured in is just extremely extensive. So I'm just going to say that any interview show you can think of, any magazine you know about, John's been there, okay? And he has his books have sold over 50 million copies in 50 different languages around the world. And through his highly acclaimed books, videos, and transformational seminars, John's purpose is to create a world where men and women understand, respect, appreciate, and ultimately work together. And I love that. I'm all on board with that. That's beautiful purpose.
Well, it's what the world really needs. And ironically, if we look at all the suffering in the world, ultimately it comes down to people making that which is not important and neglecting that which is most important. And that's my work, is to keep reminding people of what's most important. Because even in the shadow work that you talk about, is what lays in the shadow is what's really most important. And love and our needs for love and connection is really the ultimate. And when we don't get that need met, it's too painful. So we put it away in a compartment. We put it in a box. And we do everything to avoid feeling the pain of not getting the love that we deserve, the love that we need. And if we do feel that pain, then we're motivated to let it go and change. So one of the symptoms is right off the bat of avoiding the pain inside of us is to seek out extra food. That's some people are addicted to food. They could be addicted to alcohol. They could be addicted to emails. They could be addicted to their work. There's all these ways which we avoid feeling the authentic self, which is saying, hey, what's really important to me? What would make me feel really, really good? And when you feel that pain motivates us to create a change. But I'm committed to this work because I experience a lot of people. I was just counseling somebody just a minute ago who's feeling her pain, but really doesn't have an education, doesn't know what her choices are of how could I reach out and get the love I need? Because quite often today, we just don't know how. The world's a different place. The rules are different in relationships, and we don't know how to behave in a relationship to get what we need, how to ask for what we want, how to respond when we don't get what we want. And all that wisdom lies in the shadow. And part of my thing is to shine a light on what's working in relationships, what doesn't work in relationships. And then at least people have a choice. But right now, often people don't know what to do. So then our addictions and our bad habits sort of run their own course, and we don't know how to get out of it. So hopefully we'll learn some of that today and people have more free choice.
Well, you just said so many things that I just love. And the first thing that caught my ear was when you said the most important thing is what is in the shadow. So do you want to talk a little bit about why what's in the shadow is so important?
Well, again, a lot of people have many definitions of shadow, and I like this one because it's super simple and it's so in front of us. But let's say my wife is disapproving of me. I can ignore that, okay? But if I really let myself feel it, then this is the woman I love more than anybody else. I dedicated 30 years of my life to her and our family, and now I'm being disapproved of, and she knows me more than anybody else. So her reaction to me has more effect. The closer you get to somebody, the more influence they have over you. So your traditional male would basically go, well, then I don't care. You might argue, which after a while that doesn't work. So then at a certain point, men will typically go, oh, who cares? She's nuts. She's crazy, whatever. And now what I've done is I protected myself from being hurt by her. I'm saying I don't care. And I built a wall between the two of us so she can't hurt me. And that means her love has no effect on me. And the whole point of a relationship is to open ourselves up so someone can influence us and we can influence them. The greatest joy in my life is feeling like I'm responsible. I can make her life happier. I contribute to her life. She gives me meaning and purpose in my life. But if I suddenly cut her off, then what meaning and purpose do I have in even being in this relationship? So people become cynical and they become kind of passive, or they become resentful, all kinds of reactions, when really if I go into the shadow is when she just disapproved of me. That hurts. And why does it hurt? It's painful because I want her to love me. So contained within the shadow is one, a feeling that I don't want to feel. And when I feel that emotion, if I have the skill to ask, well, why do I feel hurt? Why do I feel pain? Why do I feel sad? It's because I want her to love me. And why do I want her to love me? I want her to approve of me. I want her to think I'm this wonderful guy. I want that. And why do I want that? Because I need love. We all need love. And we don't want to admit it unless we're blaming someone. You're not loved. But basically, if I feel my vulnerable need for love, how can I be mad at somebody? I want to be a part of your life. I don't want to push you away. I don't want to pull a wall up. But what happens is when we can get into the shadow and actually feel those vulnerable feelings, which are painful at times, contained within the feeling is the knowing within that you are loved. See, when my wife disapproves of me sometimes, it's only momentary. You see, it will pass. And all I have to do is some nice things, her mood changes. I look at my partner as the weather. The weather is always changing. You can't control the weather. It's not my job to control the weather. I can't get mad at her because the sun's not shining today. She's got a cloudy day. It might be raining. Occasionally it's stormy. And people live in different parts of the country. You get different partners, you're going to get different reactions. But what I've seen always is if she does something that doesn't sound loving to me, if I react by not being loving to her, then she's stuck in that place. That is the lack of knowledge, is that when we resist our partners, it will persist. That same behavior will continue on and on and on. Now, the truth is, my wife hasn't, I'm taking one little example, but you need real examples to really put your teeth into these things.
I totally appreciate that. I was going to ask you for some examples. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the other day we're going on a little vacation with some friends, and I come home and I call her. I was going to be there at 12:15. And I said, honey, I think I'm going to be there around 12:20, 5 minutes late. And she said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, the other day you said it would have been really nice on a date the other time if I'd washed the car, and on a trip I'd check the tires and I filled the tank. So I said, well, I got my tires and I did my gas, but it's a long line at the car wash, so I figure I'll be 5 minutes late. I mean, I'm like the ultimate husband as far as I'm concerned. You throw you doing all this for her, getting all ready. And she basically had her reaction, and her reaction was, well, you should have done that before. Why didn't you do that yesterday? And I just listened to her and I said, I guess I could have done it yesterday, but I forgot. And then I arrived home 5 minutes late, and she was all upset. Aww. Now, most men will go, this is ridiculous. What are you getting upset over 5 minutes? And then what I've done, I made her feel ridiculous.
Yes.
And she was just having a bad day, And I said, well, I did get here. I did call, because that's one thing she used to say. She didn't even call me, so I'm good at calling now. So I'm over here. I'm getting the car washed. I checked the tires. I filled the tank up. I called her. I'm a bit late. Life is not perfect. But, she's a different type person. I'm super flexible. She's the complement to that. And as a result, there's all these great benefits. Whereas, our house is always organized and clean. She knows how to store things in places. She's that personality type that I need. So that's the good side of it. But then she likes everything to be punctual and just when you say something, you have to do it exactly. And not every time either. But this was a stressful day for her. She's getting everything together because we're going on a trip with some friends and we have to pick them up. And heaven forbid, we might keep them waiting.
Right.
They're flexible too. But she's like a perfectionist sometimes. Yeah. And so I don't disapprove of her disapproval. And as soon as I don't disapprove of her disapproval, it's not upsetting me. And if it doesn't upset me, then I can just sort of understand and allow her to be that way. She will come back to her normal, loving, approving self.
Yes.
But to think that I've just lost her love or I'm not being valued and appreciated because for a few moments in time she expresses disapproval, if I disapprove of that, now I'm resisting her, I lock her into that place. And if people could just understand the universe, particularly the people we're closest to, we have the biggest effect on, if we react defensively and we lock them into that kind of behavior. And resentment does that. When we resent our partner for giving less of what we want, they were just sort of stuck in this energetic lock rather than sort of releasing it to shift and to change, because life will change if we allow it to, and people will come back to love. So again, that's, people see me with my wife, they go, how did you do that? Because see, my wife said to me one time, she said to me, and again, this is about the shadow. We're trying to be perfect. None of us are perfect. And part of our shadow is we want to hide that we're imperfect. We want to defend to the end of our life. I wasn't so bad. I'm good. And I am good, and I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes, and I'm not always doing it the right way that she thinks is the right way. And so coming to peace with that allowed my marriage to be so much better, and that I don't always have to defend my position, but she can be upset. Well, why didn't you do that? And you could have done it this way. I went, oh, that's a good idea. I'll try to remember that next time. And that's it, as opposed to, well, you're getting upset over nothing. It's not a big deal, and people aren't perfect, and I can't do this. And, I used to say this thing, honey, until the Swiss invented a watch, nobody was ever on time. What's this whole on time thing? Let's go with the flow. Let's relax. Now, that all makes sense to me. If somebody said that to me, I go, yeah, you're right. Let's just go with the flow. What's the big deal? Don't worry about it. That's not her. And so she doesn't have to be like me. As a matter of fact, we have to let people be who they are. So one day I said, honey, how would you evaluate me as a husband? Do I get 8+? And she said, well, you clearly know I don't think you're perfect. And I go, yes. And she said, but you have given me the most important thing anyone could ever want, the most important thing she could ever want. And I said, what was that? She said, I feel free to be myself, and I know you're never going to leave me. And I know you're never going to take your love away from me. And if men could just understand that, and that this is about women, is that everything about women is I need to feel that I can be me and I will be loved. And she explained, she said, I can say this, I can try on this, I can try this, I can make a mistake here, and I'll upset you, and you go off into your room, and I don't know what magic you do, but you come out of that room and you're loving again. And that's what I teach people, is how to take responsibility to be loving. If somebody punches you and you get a bruise, okay, you got a bruise. They might have punched you and you got the bruise, but how do you heal the bruise? You can't be blaming them for the bruise. They've already made the bruise. I have the power to heal the bruise if I take the power to heal the bruise. But if I'm saying to myself, this bruise is not going to go away till you promise you'll change, that bruise will never heal.
Right.
We are responsible for our feelings. Maybe people poke at us and we get hurt, but now it's up to me to look inside and feel the hurt and recognize that when I'm hurting, I'm also putting a wall up, and I justify it by protecting myself from being hurt again. Right. That's one way of looking at it. I'm the victim. Or I go, my partner's doing the best they can do. Nobody's perfect. I'm making it worse by putting a wall up. I need to bring the wall down and open my heart to them again instead of pushing them away. And if you really analyze the emotion of hurt, we only feel hurt when we feel left out. So this is the analyze. It is very, very important. Is one of the times I felt so hurt inside. So it was, I said, what is making me feel this hurt? Is one time with one of my daughters, she was rejecting me. And I'm a great dad, but she just was rejecting me, very upset with me. And everybody was having this good time, and I knew I was excluded. I wasn't a part of it. I wanted to be a part of it, but I was excluded. And that is actually what causes us to feel hurt, when other people are leaving us out, when other people are neglecting us. So for women particularly, the hurt comes from feeling neglected. Yes. And the neglect is, I want to be a part of your life. I want to connect to your life. And it hurts when you don't when you don't include me.
Right.
So the desire is, I want to be included. But what do we do as human beings when we're hurt? We put up a wall and say, well, then I don't care. I'm not going to be loving to you, or I'm going to be mad at you. Why be mad and reject somebody that you want to be accepted by?
Right.
So the rational mind can make sense of this. The emotional body is still going to react. But when that emotional body reacts, it's like a little child who doesn't understand what's going on. So if I'm being temporarily rejected by my wife, does that mean she always rejects me? No, it's just in that moment. And look at me, I'm rejecting her back. So I'm doing the same thing. How can I be holding on to her? So yeah, somebody rejects us, we reject back. What can I do to change the situation? Let go of my rejection, open my heart, and give love again. And that's all. That love is in the shadow, but we have to go in there and take responsibility for owning it and feeling the pain. And when you feel pain, it comes up in 4 flavors. Okay, now this is very important. This is also part of the shadow. The shadow is what we don't see. Now, there's some people that walk around and they're angry a lot. Okay, they're tough and they're angry. For them, they're in touch with their emotion. Their painful emotions are anger, sadness, fear, and regret, sorrow. Okay, so those are painful emotions. That's emotional. You could say, I feel hurt, I feel pain, but the way you feel it is through emotion. And the emotion is anger, sadness, fear, regret. Now, I used to walk around feeling huge anxiety in life. Okay, I just, you can see I feel no exam. I can go on TV, I can do interviews, I can go to shows. I've done Broadway shows. I've done it all. Wow. And I experienced no anxiety. Wow. None. Okay, I'm fear-free. Okay, now how did that happen? I used to have huge anxiety. My first talk I gave when I was teaching meditation 42 years ago, I was teaching class in meditation, and I had so much anxiety about giving this talk that I fainted. Okay, my knees shook and I fainted. I mean, literally, it was hell for me, but I knew this was my purpose in life and I was going to do it until I learned how to go into the shadow. Whenever you're feeling something, if you're stuck in it, there's always deeper levels that you need to feel into. You have to go into the darkness. So what was holding me in fear is that actually I was angry. Oh. I have always been such a nice person, and being one of the younger kids in my family, you had to be nice to get what you want. If you got angry, people would beat you up. People get mad at you. They're bigger than you. A lot of women have this issue. You can't be angry. So if you're in pain, one is you're angry about what happened, you're sad about what didn't happen, you're afraid it could happen again, and you regret and you feel like that shouldn't happen. So those are 4 reactions. Any situation, anything that happens, I don't like what happened, that's the emotion of anger. If I missed out on something, that's the emotion of sadness. It could happen again. The brain goes, what if this keeps happening? That's the emotion of fear. There's always, the Germans talk about this as the Gestalt. If you can look at the truth about something, a transformation takes place. Your brain is able to go, okay, I make sense of this, I release it. But if I was chronically anxious, my brain's not releasing it. And the way I discovered this was a long time ago, because I'm a very spiritual person as well. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to go to scary movies. One, it was bad vibes. But 2 is I have enough fear in my life. Why do I want to go to a negative movie? But it was a spiritual scary movie called Poltergeist. Remember back to Poltergeist?
Absolutely, sure.
And so I thought, okay, I'll go see this movie. I'll go on a Sunday an afternoon where nobody would be there because I didn't want all their vibes. And And I used to be very, very sensitive in that way where people would affect me a lot. They don't now in a negative way. I'm affected in a positive way. But so I went in, I was feeling all this anxiety. Okay, it just didn't even make sense. Why would it be? It's just a movie, but there's this anxiety. And a guy came in, it was empty theater, and I had a date. And a guy sat in front of me who was 6'4". I'm about 5'7", and right in front of me with a hat. I was furious at this guy, completely. Don't sit right in front of me or blocking my view. I was furious. And I thought, what am I going to do? I got up, and this is very uncharacteristic of me because I don't get angry at that point in my life. And I got up and sat in front of him. Like, he didn't even notice. He didn't even notice. And I thought, okay, that was silly. So I got up and got my date, and we moved across the theater to a nice spot. But what I noticed while I was waiting for the movie, I had no fear. All my fear was gone. Oh. And what had happened is I realized that, I'm always such a nice person. Emotion I never let myself feel is anger. And whenever there's fear, if I'm afraid of anything, I'm afraid you'll reject me, then a part of me is I'm angry that you would reject me. Well, why should you reject me? But I'm not acknowledging that. So these are hidden emotions, and it could be the anger had to do with a 5th grade class where the kids laughed at me, and I'm still angry about that, but I never dealt with it.
Sure.
So the shadow is all these suppressed feelings as well. Yeah. And very typically, whenever if you're stuck in an emotion, if you can let it go, great. But if you're stuck in an emotion, there's always a deeper level of it, a deeper level. And that's what we have to do to explore. And so then you've got women going, okay, empowerment for women is we need to be angry, ladies. Let's be angry. Well, that doesn't work. That sabotages your relationships. If you get angry at somebody, what do? They just get angry back at you. I mean, nobody's perfect. So what you do is you learn to own these feelings and transform them, because we all have, as human beings, 3 parts to our brain, and the middle part is called the monkey brain. It's monkey see, monkey do. We actually have cells that will mirror whatever we see. So if you're angry with somebody, they will get angry back. Now, if you suppress anger, then you'll feel fear back. But what you should feel is a little bit of all those emotions, and then you let it go. It will release if you can feel the depth of your emotions. That's one book I wrote called What You Feel, You Can Heal. Very simple book.
Yes.
And it just teaches how to write out what your emotions are. And underneath every emotion is a positive intention, a positive wish. So if my wife is disapproving of me, really, I might get angry with her and reject her and shut down. But what's behind that is I'm angry about it, that she was not appreciating what I do. Sad that I don't have a wife that accepts me just the way I am. Afraid that if I'm not perfect, I'll just keep getting rejected, and regret that, that life isn't perfect. So there's levels of this, but underneath it all is what I want. What I want is for her to love and accept me. It's as simple as that. So how can I be angry at somebody? I want you to love and accept me. I love you. Because within the desire, the positive desire and intent, which is I want you to love me, is the love inside of us for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I don't love somebody, why do I want them to love me? I only want somebody to love me that I want to love. So you want that reciprocity. So we're living in kind of a crazy world, because what we're doing is elevating spiritually beyond the monkey brain to the front part of the brain, which it connects with spirit. And the spirit wants us to love. The monkey brain is eye for eye, monkey see, monkey do. And as like Gandhi said, if you an eye for an eye, everybody will go blind. You take my eye, I'll take your eye. You'll take my eye, I'll take your eye. It just goes on and on. So we have a world that was sort of static in a slow evolution. By connecting with spirit, we suddenly had the choice to step out of that. And that's the whole idea of many religions, is free will. But we have to know what our choices are to exert our will. And as long as it's in the shadow, we have no free will. We automatically react to things. So one is exploring emotionally what goes on. But 2 is what I've written about so much in my books, is the shadow when it comes to relationships. And it's basically not knowing these blind spots between men and women. And we just don't see certain things. So let me run down a few real quickly, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
One of the first, and these are some of the basics in Men Are From Mars, but I've elaborated with many, many more in other books. But the basics are men go to their cave. Okay, this is a thing men do. Men react to stress by forgetting it. Mm-hmm. And now we know scientifically that when a man has adrenaline in his body, stress, he will disconnect from emotions. When women have adrenaline in their body, stress, they experience more emotion.
Yes.
So right there, we misinterpret each other. A woman gets emotional, a man misinterprets her by going, "You're too emotional. You're getting upset over nothing. What's the problem?" She's not getting upset over nothing. She's having a normal female emotional reaction. He, on the other hand, has no emotion, and she's going, "Why are you in your head? You should be in your heart." But he's having a normal male reaction, which is when men are in danger, they disconnect from emotion. They have to in order to take action in danger. Whereas women have not evolved in danger. They've evolved in a nurturing community, and the only danger there is rejection. So loving skills are very important, and her hormonal system is when she's loving, it lowers stress. When a man basically disconnects from his emotions, his stress goes down. So that's what men do. They disconnect from emotions at times of stress. So a woman misinterprets him. The blind spot there is if he becomes unemotional, he must be withdrawing his love. Has nothing to do with withdrawing his love. However, at that moment, he cannot feel anything. So he cannot feel his love. It doesn't mean he doesn't love her. It means in that moment, he cannot feel the love. And because women typically can feel the love, even when they're mad, they can still feel the love. When his love disappears, she panics and thinks he doesn't love me because he's not feeling it. So there's a big blind spot there. I mean, it's like, so now here's what she does. Is she starts asking him questions. What's the matter? What's going on? Why don't you have feelings? Or criticizes, why are you in your head? At a time when what should she do, which she doesn't know, is she should just ignore him.
Oh.
That's the time you ignore a guy, is when he's pulled away in his feelings. Let him be alone for a while. And when he comes back, if he doesn't feel rejected, he'll be more friendly and loving. Meanwhile, she has more emotions. What does she need to do? Talk about those emotions to another woman who will understand the emotion, or learn to journal her emotions. Now, more powerful than talking to a girlfriend is journaling your emotions if you do it correctly. And what I mean by correctly is to identify emotions. Instead of, he didn't do this, he should have done that, why didn't he do that, I don't understand, how could he do that? That's all just talking in circles. It's what's going on, but there's no emotion in that. To process emotions, you want to basically cover 4 levels again. I'm frustrated or angry. That's the first. Those are the hot emotions. Frustrated or angry, sad or disappointed, afraid or concerned, embarrassed or sorry or regretful, something like that. And then you write out those emotions. I call this the feeling letter technique. And then go below it. Now you're going deep into the shadow. What is it that you're really wishing and wanting and needing? So you're being vulnerable to yourself. And now you're not attacking anybody. You're being present with the love inside of you. And what I found is when people get to that level of non-defensiveness, all the emotions are defenses. Right. You get to the non-defensiveness, the seed of knowing appears. The knowing that I am loved, the knowing I can get love, the knowing that everything's okay. Kind of like for my wife, when she got back to her center, she realized on her own that what's the big deal? He's 5 minutes late. There's nothing to worry about. Why is that a problem? But that's not my job to tell her that. That's her job to come back to her loving center, and then she feels that. And then we're all connected again. And this is what we do. We all, if we come back to love, everything is okay. Yes. Everything is all right. Fear is forgetting that everything's okay and that we can get through this. But we don't want to invalidate people. But when there's challenge, basically, rather than the defensive reactions and arguments and whatever, we take a time out, we come into our own space, and we process. Now, the reason I say it's better for women to process through writing than talking to friends, although there's nothing wrong with talking to friends, is that you don't train yourself in the true ability to go deeper into your emotions. Generally speaking, if you say to a woman, my husband was 5 minutes late and I was doing this and this and this, another woman immediately goes into that situation and relates to her feelings. And you feel the empathy, but you never learned how to articulate what your disappointment was, what your fear is. So I'll be my wife for a moment, and if she was to journal her upset, it would be, okay, I'm frustrated that my husband is not here on time. I'm frustrated that he's late a lot. I'm frustrated that he didn't call. I'm frustrated that he makes work more important than me. Now, not all these are facts because I don't, but that's what you're feeling. That's what you're feeling at the time. I'm frustrated. He makes work so much important. I'm frustrated. I have to always be on top of him to remind him of everything. Now, those aren't true, but that's what she's feeling in the moment. I want to point that out. That's an emotion. Just what is that emotion about? The emotion is real. The story we tell ourselves is hardly real. That's what we have to understand is when emotion is painful, it's because the story we're telling ourselves to feel that emotion is off base. Right. See, whenever you tell yourself the truth, you feel love. You feel everything's okay. But when you're telling yourself the story, he doesn't love me because of that, then you're going to feel pain. So it's us telling ourselves a story causes these emotions. So it may only be a little part of the story that's wrong, but you got to correct the story, and your brain will automatically correct it if you just acknowledge, I'm telling him I'm frustrated because he's late. I'm frustrated he was late before. I'm frustrated I have to organize so much. I'm frustrated I still have so much to do. I'm frustrated those people might be late. So that will be the surface. That's easy to feel for most people. Now go deeper. What's your disappointment? Oh, I'm disappointed because there's so many things I feel behind on. There's so many pressures on me today. And this is just one more thing. I'm disappointed that he didn't think about me the day before. It would have been so much easier. I'm disappointed because if he'd gotten here earlier, I could have asked him to do more things to help me. So there's disappointment. See how the story changes a little bit. My concern. So go underneath it. I'm concerned. What am I concerned about? Well, I'm concerned we might get late and these people will be waiting and I don't want them to wait. And she's not thinking 5 minutes late. I'm just concerned they're going to be waiting and wondering if we're going to be there. Truth is, if we were late, we just call them and everything would be fine. But you're just feeling with the emotion at that time. It doesn't do all this. It's just a story. So I'm concerned we'll be late. I'm concerned they'll be waiting. I'm concerned we won't get to the ranch on time. I'm concerned we won't get to see the sunset. I want them to see how beautiful it all is. I'm concerned that we could hit road traffic, whatever now, because we're leaving later, even though it's just 5 minutes. That's the rational side. So what are your concerns? And then you kind of realize as you're going to your concerns, there's really nothing to be concerned about. And then the last would be embarrassed or regret, well, gee, I'm sorry I didn't, I'm sorry if we're late to be with these people. The truth is you have to go really dig deep, but it's there. I'm embarrassed that we're going to be arriving at our friend's house late. I'm embarrassed that I'm feeling so much frustration about this when really it's only 5 minutes. And then it's really gone. Then you go down those levels, and what do you want? I want to have a wonderful vacation. I want our friends to be happy. I want John to be happy. I want John to love me. Now you're into all this, what you're grateful for, when John does love me. That's a feeling letter. And you learn to go deeper by the emotions. The story keeps you on the surface, and you'll always argue with the surface, and you go with the emotions, you go inside. But if, that's a gradual skill that you can develop. Talk to a girlfriend is much quicker, but you're not also developing that skill. So both things are important, is what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Well, John, you have just given us so much valuable stuff here. I'm actually curious. We're just about at the end of our interview, but you have been coaching relationships for so many decades, and I'd love to know, we know that relationships have really changed over the decades. What do you think is the greatest block for single people today who feel that they're unable to find their perfect mate?
Okay, well, the single block, there's lots, but I'm going to pick one because you said modern times.
Right.
In modern times, the biggest challenge for single women to find their mate is he doesn't find her, or if he does, she basically feels he's not the one. He's not good enough. And sometimes they're not good enough. Sometimes they're not the right. But there's potential that women are missing out on, and men as well. So I'm starting with what's happened in the last 30 years is a spiritual transformation. We are much more conscious than ever before. Now, the closer you are to spirit, the more androgynous you are, because the spirit is not male, not female, but both. It's a perfect balance of yin yang. Okay, so this is our spirit. So over the last 30 years, particularly with the spiritual connection, the more spiritual you are, the more confusing relationships become. Because in traditional times, women could not access their masculine side. Men could not access their feminine side. Men had one side, women were one side, and we experienced a glimpse of spirituality through loving each other. But today, when you can directly connect with spirit, you're going to experience a wholeness within yourself. So your need for relationship appears to be less because you can find it all within yourself. So that's the first thing, is this greater sense of autonomy. Second to that is spiritually, we connect to the male and female energies. We can access those energies of masculine and feminine, but our bodies are one sex or the other. And what happens is we have a different way of reacting to stress. I briefly mentioned it before, is under stress, men have to rebuild their testosterone, and to lower stress, men release testosterone. Solving problems produces more testosterone. For women, sharing feelings, asking for help, getting help, reciprocity, relationships, and nurturing all produce a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin lowers stress for women. Now, the key factor is oxytocin does not lower stress in men. Testosterone does not lower stress in women. It feels good, but it doesn't lower stress. Actually, too much testosterone in women lowers both estrogen and oxytocin. So physically, when we're stressed, when our body's producing stress hormones, it means we're out of balance. Okay? So when you have access to spirit and androgyny, the tendency for the modern woman, the conscious woman, is when she's stressed, when she goes out of balance, she tends to go over to the male side. That's the default.
Yeah.
When men are stressed, they go to their female side. Now, this is not traditional women.
Right.
And the old-fashioned women, under stress, she looked for a man to save her. She actually went more to her female and said, I need a man. And the traditional male, for example, he worked hard for his family, but he didn't have all this emotional desire for her to be happy. See, this whole thing, if you look at every argument between men and women today, it comes down to a man's unhappy that she's unhappy. She's upset about something. Now he's unhappy. She's upset. Historically, men did not care if women were upset. Men just wanted to do their job, and they had sex, and then men didn't even know women had orgasms. I mean, even Freud was saying women don't have orgasms. I mean, it was just like half the women in the world never had an orgasm, don't even know it exists. But the modern man, he wants her to be happy. He wants her to climax. He also wants her to be happy at home. And the biggest upset he has is when she's not happy. And that's because men are way more on their female side. They're connecting emotionally with her, and they don't know how to deal with it. So I have to teach men, you're not responsible for her feelings, but you are responsible to do your best to help her. But if she's upset, it's not your fault. It's her challenge. You can help. But don't feel all beat up like, gee, I failed or whatever, because that's her job. To be happy is her job. Anyway, those are examples how men used to be. We've changed, and we have a whole new set of problems. Women become overly independent on their male side. There's no room for a man to be attracted to her, and there's no room for her to be attracted to a man. So the attraction of picking the person is harder, and to appear attractive to the right guy, women often say, you know, I have a college degree, I make a lot of money, I'm intimidating to men. Actually, you're just not attractive to men. Because a man could like you, he could see, you know, oh, you're all this, but he's not attracted to you sexually. He's not attracted to you emotionally because there's no job there for him. There's no place where he feels he can provide something significant for you. So it's like women lose their vulnerability of needing help. I need help. My wife needs my help when it's a stormy day and she's in a bad mood. She needs my help to love her and help her come back to her balance. Otherwise, she takes on too much stuff. And that's her male side. Her male side is, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. So I've watched this over 40 years as a relationship counselor and coach. Women didn't used to feel so overwhelmed.
Yes.
But now I still have to do this, I have to do this. I watch my wife, I say, let's just have a nice evening. Oh, I still have to do this. And we had to talk about this. I said, honey, we don't have to, but I can take 10 minutes and hear your emotions about it and you'll feel better. Because women get caught up thinking I have to solve the problem to feel better, when really they just need to be heard and to produce oxytocin, which will lower her stress and bring her back into balance. So this is the catch-22. Every step of evolution, we get a new set of problems. The more spiritual you become, the less attractive you become to the opposite sex.
Wow.
I mean, and of course, and the women listening know that you can find these real spiritual guys and they don't have a job. See, they don't work hard and they want you to mother them, but they're very spiritual. because they go way to their female side. And women who become more conscious will go way to their male side. So this was back in the 60s with feminism. It was consciousness raising. You know, we're doing consciousness raising. We too can be men. Yes, you can. And that's a good thing. But you got to come back and keep nurturing the female side of it. And that's why my books tend to identify, okay, what is male, what is female? Not saying you can't be that, but when you're out of balance, where do you come back to? And what are the practical tools to do that? So the shadow now for a lot of women is their own femininity. Yes. And the shadow for a lot of men is their own masculinity, and how to come back to it in a positive way. And I have to say, a lot of men have lost their masculinity because their fathers, they realized their fathers didn't make their mothers happy, because we need to upgrade our roles, upgrade who we are. And so a young boy looks at his dad and the mom's not happy. I don't want to be like dad. I don't want to be like dad. So he's going to be something different, but he doesn't know what that looks like. And so, you know, if a woman's unhappy, he wants to talk it through and whatever, as opposed to, all right, let me just listen. Let me understand. Let me give her presence. Let me give her empathy. That's what she's looking for. He hasn't yet learned that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have definitely really clarified exactly what's going on and exactly what I see out there too. And John, I just want to thank you so much for all your amazing wisdom. Obviously, you know, all of the books that you've written are just total nuggets and kernels of all of this tremendous wisdom that you've acquired over the decades. And you have a new book out. It's called Staying Focused in a Hyper World: Natural Solutions for ADHD, Memory, and Brain Performance. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Very briefly, because I know our time is closing, but what we see in children is something we're diagnosing as ADHD. Okay, it's really the same thing that adults are experiencing when women are overwhelmed and men are losing interest in their partners. It's the same thing as people are getting older, they're losing their memory. And, you know, we got 1 out of 6 women over 60 with dementia. These are big new problems. It's the same thing, but at different ages. And I explain what that phenomena is. It's not ADHD, so to speak, but everybody calls it in children ADHD. It's a very limited definition. And people say, was it really real? I say, it's very, very real. Something has changed, but you don't need to give drugs for it. That's where, you know, because a lot of people say, is it really real? They're saying, do we need to be giving children methamphetamines? No, we should not be giving children methamphetamines. But again, it's a shadow. Parents don't know that there's a natural option to it. They don't understand what's happening to the brains of their children and to their own brains. This is a big phenomena today. And I explain with 80 pages of references explaining that drugs are not the answer. They damage the brain. They injure the brain. You can heal the brain. You can lower stress. And for some children, when they're stressed, they become hyperactive. For some children, when they're stressed, they become tired or distracted and disorganized. But what's not diagnosed is some children, when they're stressed, they're going to become hypersensitive and they have mood swings. And other children, when they're stressed, become hypercompulsive. So it's a hyper world. We become hyper. The normal challenges that children would have become hyper challenges. And there's a way to correct the brain with the right supplements. So that's, we didn't touch on that today. We're looking at the behavioral side of it. There's also a nutritional side of it. Very briefly, oxytocin production. There's one mineral which is known to increase oxytocin. It's called lithium. Lithium is given for people with psychosis, but it's given in toxic doses in a form that only works in toxic doses. And therefore people go, oh, that's for crazy people. No, we all need lithium, and we eat sugar. It depletes our body of lithium. Any carbohydrate depletes your body of lithium, and we eat too many carbohydrates, so we run out of lithium. A low-dose lithium has no side effects. It has to be lithium orotate. Orotic acid is something that mother's milk produces to bond with lithium to carry it into the brain. Otherwise, these, you know, what the doctors give, they have to give toxic doses. So there's a big misunderstanding about lithium. Lithium orotate is fantastic to help women produce oxytocin, proven to do it. That's one of many, many solutions. Vitamin C and grapeseed extract will dramatically take away the symptoms of ADHD or inability to focus on one thing. Wow. Okay, to stay focused in a relaxed way or to shift focus. Flexibility of focus in a healthy way. Grapeseed extract, vitamin C helps. And I talk about 9 proven natural supplement regimens that have been proven in studies to be more effective than drugs and no side effects. Wow. And I also proved the long-term side effects of drugs, which doctors do not know. So that's like really important info, and that's in this book, Staying Focused. People can get that at Amazon. But I really want to just take a moment to think, I know a lot of women are listening, and there's a course which is better than any course I've ever taught. I spent over a year editing it, that my daughter Lauren, who's 30 years old, who has put this together. She grew up with this knowledge. She's able to articulate from the female point of view, and she calls it How to Get More Me Time. It's a 6-week course that she does, How to Get More Me Time. And there's a free course that she gives in front of that one. If people want to go to my website, marsvenus.com, and down the page, you'll see How to Get More Me Time. And what she has found is that for women, when they move to their male side during the day, in order to restore those hormones they're depleting, they have to take me time. Me time is doing anything that is selfish. But many women, when they say, okay, I'm going to go take a bath, but all they're thinking about is all the things they should be doing. They can't relax into me time. So what she's explained, men go from you time, working for others, to me time. We can make that transition very easy because we're living in the male world. When women go into the traditional male world, they're depleting in testosterone. They can't rebuild their testosterone and feel energized and happy until they get we time. So you women have to go through you time, we time, me time. Men just go from you time, me time, then we time. And she explains all this hormonally. She explains the techniques and skills, how to learn to ask what you want without feeling guilt, how to motivate men to do more for you, how to give yourself permission to do more for yourself, encouragement to do that. So that's an amazing program I highly recommend for women to take. And she's got that available. And people can check that out at marsvenus.com.
Well, that sounds absolutely wonderful. I think there's going to be a flock of women going to that. So thank you again today, John, for your time. Thank you for telling us about your beautiful offerings on your website. Again, marsvenus.com. And I am just so grateful that you were with us here today. Thank you.
You have been magnificent, and I've enjoyed this conversation so much. And when you said the offerings that I have, I forgot to mention that people can get a free summary of my new book, Staying Focused, at marsvenus.com.
Wow.
So if they go there, they can just download that from the site.
Wow, perfect. I so appreciate that. So free gift for everybody. So go to marsvenus.com. And thank you again, John, for being with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.